Welcome everybody, I'm here with none other than Cody Bugan, the Dirt Dog himself, and today we're going to talk about some of his best deals. Not necessarily all of his best deals or the top deals, but we're going to talk about some of the most fun ones, 6 figures, 7 figures. Cody, can you give us a start of just, tell us a medium deal, a boring deal, you know, a good 6-figure deal.
I don't know that I'd classify any of my deals as boring, but I'll tell you about a deal where it's a much smaller payday than I'm used to, but I'm intentionally going to tell you this story because it's a deal where I was in and out of in 90 days. And it was a deal that the reason I was in and out of it in 90 days is because I didn't like the numbers and what we had discovered during our 90-day feasibility study or due diligence, right? And so I wasn't going to move forward, and instead I found someone that I could assign the deal to, a home builder that wanted the project. And so in return, on a deal that didn't even work for me, I still made $300,000, okay? So this particular property was up in Oregon, and it was 2 neighboring properties. So the project was, 8 to 10 acres. And one property owner was easy to deal with, the other property owner was not so easy to deal with. And the property owner that was not so easy to deal with was getting paid a lot more for his land than the guy that was easy to deal with. And so, but anyways, we get these 2 properties under contract, we get control of them, and we go through our feasibility study or our due diligence period. And what happened is, the project was approximately, give or take, let's just call it 40 lots, okay, a 40 lot project. And we had originally had speculated prior to putting the property under contract that it was gonna cost us, say $75,000 a lot, all in to develop the land, for all of our hard costs, soft costs, loan fees, interest carry, engineering, jurisdictional costs, construction, blah, 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 okay? When we got to the end of our due diligence or feasibility study, about 90 days in, the costs ended up coming in at about $100,000 a lot. My cost came in 25 grand a lot more than what I'd thought, right? And on 40 lots, what is that? That's $1 million. At the end of the due diligence, we were below our profit margin threshold for us to want to move forward, okay? Because remember, even though we sell a lot of our deals after we get the developments approved, we don't do the construction. We always are underwriting the deal all the way through the finished lots, okay? Because I need to be in a position where if I decide to not sell it at approvals, that I can go and develop it and make the type of margin I need to make.
Right.
Needless to say, instead of saying the profit margin being whatever it was, 25%, it ended up being 15%. And so instead of just killing the deal, and the property owners, by the way, we went to them with these discoveries. We're a big believer in, if you're gonna ask for a price reduction or you're gonna ask for a change in terms, you need to be able to clearly explain why and show why. They would not budge, okay? So I found a local home builder that really needed those 40 lots, okay? He really wanted the project. So what happened is, I think I had about 15 grand in that feasibility study. So 90 days in, I end up getting my 15 grand back and making $300,000. He wrote us a check for like 315 grand, got my 15 grand back, made 300 grand, assigned the 2 contracts over to him. And I think that was just a good deal to tell you about, because 1, we made the payday in 90 days. And 2 is we still, we made $300,000, but that's not a typical deal for us. And just because a deal doesn't work for you doesn't mean it doesn't work for somebody else.
And I loved how you knew your numbers too. You knew exactly what your profitability threshold was, and you didn't accept anything below that. And after trying to renegotiate, you still ended up positive $300,000.
I mean, to make 300 grand on 15 grand in 90 days, like, that's a pretty good multiple. It's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah. What about some other examples? Maybe like a 7-figure one.
Yeah, as I was thinking about this question, another deal I'll tell you about, because remember, I specialize in not just residential, but I specialize in single family residential, okay? Whether that's detached or attached, we specialize in single family residential. And what that means is that the homes or the houses are on their own individual tax lots, okay? That's why we call it platting, or we go and we get preliminary plat approval, or we go and get final plat approval, or we record the plat. That relates mainly to single family residential. Well, but this is very, very important for you to hear what I'm about to say. You see, what we teach at Vestrite is we teach how to go find raw land that has development potential, and we teach the governmental approval process, or the land use approval process, or entitlements, whatever you want to call it. Well, here's the thing. That approval process is 90% the same no matter what the asset class is. So what happens is numerous of my friends, who you would know who they are, they're big into other asset classes like storage or like multifamily. And the thing is, I can take what I know and I can go play in their asset class overnight because it's 90% the same. So this story is about, or project is about, a deal where it was a multifamily project. And what happened is this, and believe it or not only was this a multifamily project, which is outside my normal day-to-day asset class of single family, but this was a particular area or project where it had gone through numerous fail sales, meaning other people had tied this property up and not been able to have it come together, okay? So call it a feather in my cap or whatever. So not only was it outside my bread and butter, but I pulled off what other guys couldn't pull off. And
so they had worked with the owners but weren't able to get the government approval?
Yeah, what happened is none of these guys were even able to get out of their due diligence or feasibility period, because part of your due diligence or feasibility period is you go and do what's called a pre-application conference. So it's you go meet with this jurisdiction and the fire department and utility whoever, and they all speak into your plan or what you want to do. And every one of those guys, their projects fell apart before they ever got out of their feasibility study because of what they received as feedback in their pre-application conference. And so what happened is, between that property I'm talking about, well, I ended up buying 2 other parcels in the area, okay? And working with a neighborhood association that was right next door that did not want this project to develop. So by working with that committee, that neighborhood committee, and working and then getting these other 2 properties, I was able to bring this whole project together. And it wasn't easy, it was challenging, but one of the beautiful things is that if you can figure out how to be resourceful, be creative, think outside the box, how do I create win-wins for everybody? How can I create a win for that neighborhood association next door to where they'll support my project, right? How did I do that? I agreed to plant some trees to where they didn't have to look at my project, right? It was really that simple, okay? Did I have to plant those trees? No. Did I choose to plant those trees? Yes. It's a minuscule expense compared to having them battle me through the process. But lawfully, I didn't have to do it, but I did it anyways. But needless to say, I go in and we get this multifamily project approved, 178 units. Between all 3 parcels, it was only like 5-6 acres, 178 units, 4-story apartment complex. I brought my buyer into that deal early in the process, so they were a part of all of it with me. They actually cash flowed all the approvals. The only cash I had into the deal was the earnest money I put down for the different sellers. We had about $200,000 in that deal, and we got our 200 back, and we made about $1.9 million. Okay, and we did that over the course of like 14 months. So
that's about a 10x return in
10x time in about, I think it was about 14 months. But the main reason I wanted to talk to you about that one is because it was a multifamily deal, and so many people out there are in multifamily, because here's the reality. Everybody and their mom is teaching about syndication right now, and teaching about multifamily syndication, and talking about cash flow. Let me tell you something. This is actually something, I don't know if I said this to Grant Cardone or if I was just thinking about it when I was interviewing him. Even if you never execute on my business model, meaning go and find an off-market raw land that has development potential and getting it approved for development. Even if you never go do what I do, it would be worthwhile for you to go learn about what it is that I do. Go get educated by VestRight, and here's why. Because gentlemen like, I don't know, mention any guy out there right now that's an educator and that's a big syndicator. They're all going out and buying, value add, where they're going and buying an existing apartment complex and they're figuring out how to increase the value of it. And they do that by either increasing the revenue or decreasing the costs, okay? If I ever decided that I wanted to go compete with those guys, you know what? I would have a huge advantage over them. And you know why? Because I will see opportunity that they will not. I might see a piece next door that I can do something with that'll bring value to the project. I might know, because I understand density and code, that I can add units to the property. There is things that I know and understand because I understand utilities, I understand density, I understand land use, where even if I never even go do what I teach every day, okay, even if I wanted to just go and continue to buy existing apartment complexes or storage facilities, you have a huge advantage if you understand what I understand. Extremely, extremely important. You've all heard education, knowledge is power. Well, actually, I can think of a deal right now where I did a value add existing complex and my knowledge gave me an advantage over the other guys at the table. So it's just, why wouldn't you want to understand the backbone of real estate? Well, dirt and land use is the backbone of real estate. It's the foundation of real estate.
That's awesome. When you understand the land, you can bring value to the deal.
100, if you understand the land, you bring value to any type of real estate model.
Yeah. One last quick example. Can you go into that one that you did buy and do the value add?
Oh yeah, so remember when I started VestRight just for PIF, Purpose Impact Fulfillment, okay? Because I wanted to make a difference. Well, and then students kept asking to partner with me over and over and over again. And so I finally said, okay, fine, you guys will start partnering with you. But I never wanted anybody to think the reason I started VestRight was so that students would bring me deals, because it's just not why I started it. But this next deal was a deal that was brought to us by a student. And I will tell you that I wrote the student a check for over $600,000 for bringing me the deal. And to make that story even a little more fun to tell, before that student turned that deal over to us, he was this close to assigning his contract to someone else for 20 grand. And we spent time educating him on how he was being very short-sighted and there was much more opportunity. And so we finally convinced him to not assign his contract and to let us go do what we do. And so the thing is, when students partner with us, what they do is they go find a ready, willing seller, okay? They bring the deal to us. Our company steps in, negotiates the purchase. We run all the developmental approvals. We get it approved. We sell it. We capitalize the whole thing. We put up all the money, and then we cut our student in or our partner in on the profit, okay? So this is a really cool deal because we cut the student in on our profit. And so, it was a deal, by the way, that it was in a jurisdiction. It was our first deal we ever did in Texas. And so not only was it our first deal we done in Texas, but because of that, we didn't know we're getting ourselves into. It happened to be one of the toughest jurisdictions in Texas to get a project approved. Kind of find out they hadn't approved a single family project in their jurisdiction in over a decade. This speaks to, again, the importance of being open-minded, being creative, being willing to think outside the box, being willing to fall on a sword for the jurisdiction and make them look good to the public. By having that type of mindset, by seeing the jurisdiction as your partner, as your friend, not as your enemy. So many people in the development space see the jurisdiction as their enemy, and it's why they don't have the track record of getting projects approved like I do, okay? End of the day, including our fees we get from our fund for getting these projects done. And I think our fees, I'll just be open with you, I think our fees to get that deal done were like $160,000. We ended up making like $5.2 million on that deal, plus getting the fund back all of its money. And then out of our profits, we were able to write our student a check for over $600,000 by bringing us that deal. So,
wow.
Super cool deal. It's just, by the way, that particular student worked full-time at his church, and he was an immigrant, and he moved here, I think he said, with like $700 in his bank account. And, you know, Lord willing, as long as he's a steward over that money, I mean, that changed his life forever.
Yeah.
And how cool is that for me? PIF, purpose, impact, fulfillment. If I can't get fulfillment out of that, I'm screwed. Like it's an amazing thing for my life. So yeah.
So you're able to turn $500,000 in funds into a $5 million deal.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, and not a $5 million deal, $5 million in profit.
So it's fair to say that there's still margins in land, and anyone who is interested in getting into any kind of real estate can highly benefit from learning about the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I would say whether you want to come do what I do or not, that's irrelevant. The reality is I have a huge advantage over most people in real estate, whether they're veterans or they're newbies, and it's because I understand the dirt, I understand land use, I understand density, I understand code, I understand all of that. And guess what? Most of you don't. And some of you that are some of the biggest names in real estate, some of the biggest names online, when I say the word entitlements, you don't even know what I mean. When I say land use, what's that? Density, utilities, infrastructure, like you don't understand it. I'm not putting you down, it's not your fault, because no one's been teaching it. And that's why I started VestRight. And so whether you come do what I do or not is irrelevant. You still need the education.
So whether you guys want to go continue to get educated on your own and network, or if you guys want to work with Cody, you can click the link below to go to that VestRight website and learn all you can about land. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys on the next one.